there, everybody. Welcome to the end of the first quarter of the 21st century, which is a crazy thing to say. Luckily, the only task that I have to do here at the end of the first quarter of the 21st century is tell you what I think are the best comics of the last year. This year, I'm going to be splitting into two groups of books because I can't whittle it down to just 10, so I got to cheat. But I'm going to have 10 what I think are the best ongoing things, not necessarily the best ongoing series, but like with manga, the best ongoing productions, and then what I think are the best one-off graphic novels. They're in no particular order except for there's one that I think stands above them all, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. First up are books that came out in an ongoing format, whether they be like with Teo Matsumoto's Tokyo These Days, this came out all this year, or whether they be something like The Last Man that's been coming out, or some things that will be continuing to come out. These are just series that are ongoing. So first one up, this is Tokyo These Days by Teo Matsumoto, someone who we have not talked about on the channel and need to. Sean and I have been talking about doing a Teo Matsumoto video for a long time. I actually have all of his stuff that's been translated and I've read it all. I need to do maybe a ranking Teo Matsumoto video, but this one would be very high up on my rank of his work. It's a story about a manga editor. It's nice to see a story about someone working within the comics industry who's not an artist. Normally it's artists doing books about artists, which gets a little boring. So to see a book about a different industry, the manga industry, rather than the mainstream comics industry in America, and to have it be about the editor rather than the artist, I thought was a really interesting premise, and then very, very well drawn, obviously with Teo Matsumoto, and super well written. And I think one of my favorite works of his. The Last Man series also wrapped up this year. This is a series that's been a long time coming and wrapping up. This was originally published in Europe by the three artists, Balak, Sandlaville, and Vivez. Bastien Vivez is the artist I came to this work because he was involved, but then the other three artists are fantastic as well. It's a European manga, so like with manga, you'll start with colored sections and then go into black and white. Really, really great adventure story. It was coming out from Ablaze. They got the first 6 volumes done and ceased publication. I had those and read them and loved them, and was sad I was never going to get the rest of the story. Robert Kirkman saved the day, re-released those first 6 volumes, and then got the last 6 volumes out. They're 2 volumes per book, so this is the final. Volume 6 of the Skybound version is the final one. The series is done, and it's even crazier and wilder than I could have ever hoped. So really happy for that. Not a specific series, but the ongoing collection of the works of Shinichi Sakamoto. Very happy, very, very happy that in 2024 we finally got this, what I think is one of the greatest mangaka of all time. We're finally starting to get his work translated, and thankfully next year his book The Climber will be translated, and that's in my top 2-3 comics of all time. Innocent is also a very, very great story, amazing art, and hashtag DRCL is his new book that's coming out, and this was actually the first one to get translated. This one, like, the art's amazing. I'm just not sure about the story yet because I haven't read enough of it to see how I feel about it. But Innocent, I read the whole thing and digitally, and I know it's amazing. So really, really happy to have these in print, and cannot wait for next year, because next year these will be continuing and the Climber's coming out. So much Sakamoto Shinichi. Someone else who I've talked about every year that I've done one of these videos is Shuzo Oshimi, and for the course of the history of this channel, pretty much the 2 books that have been coming out are Blood on the Tracks, which was the first Shuzo Oshimi book that I read that made me fall in love with his work, and then Welcome Back Alice, and those both wrapped up this year. I lent the Blood on the Tracks to my colleague Chris Lynn, so I only have this one with me, but Welcome Back Alice really surprised me. If you watch my ranking Shuzo Oshimi, this one was kind of like I didn't know, because I didn't know where it was going or how it was going to end, but the end of this book really I mean, it shouldn't have caught me by surprise, but it does the typical Shuzo Oshimi thing where he really swerves the story in a different direction than I thought and landed the story. It feels like Shuzo Oshimi's finally working out whatever traumas he had in his life, and it Welcome Back Alice and Blood on the Tracks really feels like he's maybe finally got the release that he always gives his characters. So I don't know. I don't see any books scheduled for 2025. It will be a sad year if there is no Shuzo Oshimi. But for 2024, both of those works continue to be some of my favorite stuff. I know it's a Living the Line book, and this is Living the Line, but I am not living the line. Sean is living the line. I just do the reviews on YouTube. Brandon is also part of the Living the Line, obviously is part of the company and the channel, and is a friend of ours, but I love this book. I love Moonray. I love the first volume. I love this one, and I look forward to volumes 3, 4, and 5 coming out. Brandon's art is as beautiful as ever, more lyrical and poetic than ever. There's also great art in here by Gersho G. Panalta, and I think forthcoming volumes will have even some more collaborative work in there. I just really love the story that's being told in this. I think Brandon is telling one of the first real true myths of the 21st century, someone who's attempting to tell a new type of mythology that is mildly indebted, but not as much to the old mythologies. And I think that's where the world is at right now. And so I think what Brandon's doing with Moonray is very important. And I think Brandon's one of the right people to do it. I think he has a real good intuition about where we're headed in a post-human world, and he's putting that into the book. So great art and beautiful ideas. Brandon's Moebius level creator, so of course I love that. And then another manga that I've gotten into that I've really been enjoying, I know this started last year I think, but I didn't jump on it right away, is the Vinland Saga. And I've been wanting to read this for a long time, and I'm really happy that it's coming out in these large versions, these deluxe versions. Thankfully that Berserk stuff sold so well that they're doing a bunch of these now. And this is definitely one that deserves this oversize, and I'm glad that I'm getting them in this big format because the art's really great. It's not quite as good as Berserk, but it has some of the same, like where you have the big gigantic battle scenes, a lot of the good same detail and cross-hatching. There's not the monsters in it that you have, but there's a lot of the same big battle scenes and kind of period piece type of art. But I think this book really excels for its storytelling and character development. Like the character motivations in this book are some of the deepest character motivations from any story like this that I can think of. So I'm really enjoying Vinland Saga, and I really look forward to getting the rest of it as it comes out over the next couple of years in these deluxe editions. And then the final ongoing thing that I was super excited about this year and will be excited about every year, I'm sure this will be on my list every year from here on out, is whatever the latest work is from the artist Nicholas Offerman. This is Nora S. Martin, his latest work. I really think Nicholas is one of the best comic artists in terms of like writing literature as comics. Someone who does very like, I don't want to say serious because his books can be wild and funny too, but just like, yeah, comics as literature. It's hard to explain exactly what's so great about Nicholas's work in such a short period, because part of what's good about it is how expansive it is. He's been making comics all within this one world, real world type of world. All these characters interconnect, but you don't need to read anything else. Like you could read Nora S. Martin issues 1 through 5 and never read another Nicholas Offerman book, and you'd have a satisfying reading experience. But if you read his other stuff, you start picking up on these connections. So please go watch the artist overview videos and the interviews and stuff like that. I have a lot of reviews of Nicholas's content, and it will give you a bigger picture of why I'm so excited about his stuff. But Nicholas releases this all on Patreon, a page at a time as he does it. You can pay $2 a month and have access to everything he's ever done since 2011, like 2,000 some odd pages of work. but you can also buy them in physical issues as he gets them done. So always going to be excited when Nicholas has a new comic out, and this is his latest one. So those are my top 10 ongoing series. There's one more that I haven't talked about because it's also my book of the year, so I'll keep that for the very end of the video. All right, on to my top 10 books of the year. Again, no real order here. The last 3 are kind of competing for the top spot, but then I do have a one top spot. So, Bhanu Pratap's Cutting Season. This is a book I was really excited to get. I've been eagerly awaiting Bhanu's next release since his Dear Mother and Other Stories came out from Strangers Things Publishing, Strangers Fanzine. That book was in black and white. I've seen Bhanu work in color on Instagram, so I was really excited to get a color book with Bhanu. Really excited to see that he's gotten enough recognition that this is coming out from Fantagraphics. I think people rightly recognize that this is a major, important voice in the medium. Bhanu's stuff is hard, difficult. It's very much about excrement and body horror and sexuality and very uncomfortable things, but he does it in such a beautiful way. And his compositions, I mean, you can just look at these, the abstraction and the use of color in them are beautiful. And then a very poetic sensibility. Got really lucky to interview Bhanu early on in the history of the channel, and the things he had to say about body horror and things like that were very fascinating. So a very philosophical and thoughtful guy, and I'm really happy to have a collection of his work, and I look forward to anything else Bhanu does. A surprise hit of the year was this piece by Bramara Bucciolotti, this Donald Duck Vacation Parade. William Joseph Dunn, sorry, one of our subscribers and someone I chat back and forth with a lot on Instagram, told me, hey, you got to check this book out. And I was like, Donald Duck, you crazy? But yeah, he was right. This is a fully painted, hand-painted book, and it's just got some of the most gorgeously crafted cartooning I've ever seen. Each painting is beautiful. The cartooning's impeccable. It's really, truly as good as comic gets. It's silent all the way through, so the storytelling is impeccable. Just a real joy of like what comics could be, and something that you could share with the kids. So really surprising book. I hope there's more like that coming. Some of the books on my list this year are on there for the way that they've inspired me to think about making books. Like usually when I'm picking books, it's like the story matters a lot, things like that, the whole package. There's some this year, and Grand Electric Thought Power Mother is one of them by Lale Westfind, where like, yeah, the stories are cool, but this is a collection of short stories. And the reason this book is on my list isn't necessarily because of the stories or even the art itself, but the production and how the art was put together for print in this book. A lot of what's going on in this book is that there are like spot colors that have been chosen different than the normal CMYK colors, and this is pretty standard for Lale's work, has then used those spot colors in a bunch of different ways to get a bunch of different types of effects that you can achieve by mixing these different colors, inks and whatnot. Just a lot of attention to preparing artwork for print going on in this book, and preparing artwork for print with non-standard colors, and so being able to achieve some effects and looks that we're not used to seeing, I think is just really inspirational. And Lale's work has like Grip also has that, but this is the one that came out this year. But someone whose art in general has been inspiring me a lot this year as I am getting to the end of wrapping up Bound, and I'm starting to really get to the point where I'm preparing things for print, and we're using spot colors and things like that. Artists like Lale Westfind, or like this next artist, Ikanori. This is actually a team. This book Merci is by the team called Ikanori, a 2-person team, and I reviewed more of their work on the channel as well, that will be coming out, releasing reviews of these books. But someone else who's working with spot colors, you can see this kind of teal, this like yellowy, and then this orangey red or the spot colors in this book. And this isn't really a comic, it's more like a kid's book. It's obviously, it can be a comic, it's got words and pictures, but people just doing really, really beautiful things with production. You're not going to be able to see it on screen, but just a real lesson in working with spot colors. And this one even has, like in the end, it has one of the pieces broken up into the 3 colors so that you can see like how the book was made. So this is a very, very like inspirational book in terms of technique. Now, in terms of reading, it's just someone going around and saying, "Thank you, son. Thank you, ground." Not the best reading experience, but just something that it added a whole third component to the bound. There wasn't going to be color in the way that there was going to be color in bound until I saw this book. So very, very inspirational to me in terms of like how my art's gonna look for my book that's coming out hopefully next year. Another project that I find to be very inspirational in terms of thinking about making comics is the Lagon Review. This is volume 7 that came out this year, and it's called Pluie, I believe is how you say it. The cool thing about the Lagon Reviews is that you can see it's got this strange binding. Each artist is obviously given their own signature, and they're able to choose their own custom ink, their own custom printing process, their own custom papers. So some of these things are risographs, some of them look like they're digitally printed, some of them look like they're printed offset. They're on like special papers. Like this is basically looks like the paper and the ink that you get when you buy like a hamburger and you get your stuff wrapped in there. So there's nothing going on in here in terms of story that really blew my mind, but there's a lot of cool stuff like metallic inks, different paper types. This artist here, Tim Ing Tevet, also goes by Snake Bob. Like I found this artist through this book, and this is some of the craziest, coolest, wildest comics I've ever seen. So just really a book that pushes the boundaries of comics as a medium, as a book-making medium. And as I get more interested in making my own comics like custom or preparing things with custom inks and stuff, looking at works like this is very helpful, even though I don't think they're the most like enjoyable read. You say, oh, okay, I can see how to take that and then make it like narratively enjoyable. So those Lagon Review are always very, very, very inspirational to me. One book that I guess I could have put in the ongoing series as well, but just wanted to put it in because this particular volume really blew my mind, is the latest Black Sad, They All Fall Down Part 2. I just started, and I haven't released all the videos yet, but I've started releasing the videos of my read through of all the Black Sad, and I was complaining about the stories a little bit early on, but by the time you get to this volume, there's really like a David Simon level of like ensemble cast writing, like you would get in a show like Trim or The Wire or something like that. And then you combine that with the art that's been astonishing since volume 1 and only continues to get better as the art, the color in the art continues to improve from volume to volume. So this is just as good as comics get, and it would be foolish to leave it off a list of best books of the year because it's a damn good comic. Next up, we have another phenomenally illustrated book. This is Peter and Lisa. This book came out from Fantagraphics. It is ridiculously illustrated, just lovingly packed, absolutely packed full of detail on every page. And the detail's not just to show off, the detail's there to like really build out the world. So Peter is a young Slavic soldier returning from war, and he falls in love with Lisa, a dancer. And it's pretty much just a story that follows their relationship. So a very down-to-earth type of story, the type of thing I really, really like, because you have to be a really good writer. Like when you don't have any bombastics to make things spectacularly engaging, you have to write really well. The art in this is spectacularly engaging with all the detail in it, but what really sold me on this book was the story. I really, really enjoyed the depth of the writing here. And then you combine that with the spectacular art. I mean, there we go. where you're trying to show like a time and a place and the impact that the society in the war had on these characters. It's really important to see the place, and it's such a big part of the book. So beautiful book, really stunning accomplishment. I can't imagine how long it took to make this damn book. It's a hell of a thing. Okay, so I've got three more books to show. These to me are all kind of on equal footing in terms of books of the year, and then I have one that I think stands above them even, just in terms of not necessarily like an accomplishment in terms of like one of the books. Sunday is a huge book. Um, it's just the book that I've been thinking about the most, so I'll get to that. But the what I think are kind of my tie for top books of the year. We've got Olivier Schrouwen's magnum opus. I would hope so. Huge book, Sunday. This is something that's been being released in risograph form for the last however long, I don't know, but it's finally collected. I hadn't read it in the original format. I just read it in this format, but you can see that whether it's a risograph or whether it's an offset job, they definitely kept all the spot colors and the look of the risographs all throughout. So all the different spot colors that were chosen are still there. So this is inspiring to me for all the spot color stuff that I was talking about with those other books earlier. But then this one, along with all of the like masterful printmaking spot color work that's going on, is also absolutely masterfully written. I think Olivier Schrouen really outdid himself and many other people with this book. It's called Sunday because this all happens on one day. It's basically like from the time his cousin wakes up till midnight on the day before his cousin's birthday. And that sounds boring, and it is a boring day, but also like the most interesting, exciting, deep look at humanity that so philosophical and thoughtful. And I mean, I did a review on it. You can go look at the review, but this is a work of a lifetime type of thing. I mean, I hope Olivier Schrouen has more in him to go, but this is an accomplishment, really, truly. When we're talking about artists who have accomplished plenty and now are putting out another magnum opus, we can also look at Dash Shaw's work for the year, Blurry. This is a hell of a book. Obviously, Dash Shaw is one of the great living masters of the medium that we have. Everything he puts out is amazing. I was really excited to see Dash go back to a larger format work, something that is more focused on story and character, kind of like Bottomless Belly Button. This is probably the least formally playful of Dash's books in terms of the art. Like every page is on a 4-panel grid. But that is necessary because the story is the formally most playful structure in that it's like I think it's 12 people, Russian nesting doll type of story where this person's telling a story inside of this person's story, inside of the people are telling stories inside of stories. It's a book that I really want to go back and reread like 4 or 5 more times because I feel, well, it's something I look forward to rereading every few years. As my life changes, I feel like I'll see new things in it. I feel like there's so much I missed out on the first read that would reveal itself on a second read. And that's not a criticism of the book. That's a praise of the book, that I enjoyed it and had a thoroughly enjoyable read, but I know there's more in there. So, yeah, just a really great book by one of the great artists of our times. And then the third book that is another great book by a great artist of our times is Andrew White's Spring Tides. Dash and Olivier are pretty big names. I think they even went on a tour together. Andrew's not as big of a name. He's equally as good or better cartoonist than both of them, and someone who has probably an even larger body of work than both of them. Andrew's a very, very prolific artist, self-published. It's nice to see some of his work being published by other people now, so it's not all self-published. This is by Glacier Bay Books, which usually they print manga, but I'm glad they're printing Andrew's stuff because Andrew's just really one of the most phenomenal cartoonists going. It's very sparse, minimal cartooning throughout, very poetic cartooning, but he can break your heart with a line. Tori and I just like 10 minutes ago before I recorded this video, recorded our joint review of this. When I recommended this to Tori, I finished reading it and threw it to her and said, you got to read it because it's about a couple dealing with, one of them having a disability, chronic illness like Tori has. So it's like, you got to read this. Like, this captures our experience pretty well. And I found her in the living room just sobbing. She hadn't even finished it. She was crying her way reading the book. So super powerful book. Just it captures the experience of disability so well, and the artwork in it is just stunning. It can be so simple but so powerful. But then you also get some really beautiful, like really loose ink slingy type of drawings like that. So I think Andrew White is someone who should be up there with the Chris Wares and the Dash Shaws and the Olivier Schrouwens. So definitely go get his stuff. And then the one book to top them all, this is out of my top 10 list. I'm cheating. This book would be my top ongoing series, and it's also this single issue of this would be my top single book of the year. Issue 6 of Chad Beaulieu and Juliette DeWitt's The Re-Up. The Re-Up is an awesome series. This is an autobiographical series about Chad during his time as a drug dealer in the Washington, D.C. area, starting with marijuana. So it's easy to write this book off as just like a weed book, and the first 5 issues or so are kind of like that. I mean, I still really think they're some of the best comics I've read. Chad drops a lot of wisdom and a lot of game, a lot of good ideas about self-promotion that he uses for his comics now and things like that. So already like one of the best series going. And then this issue, the most recent one, came out, and I don't want to say it has like a surprise or a twist or anything, but it just kind of goes in a different direction than the reader expects, and the book becomes much more I don't know. I don't know how to talk about it without spoiling it, but the vulnerability that's on display in this book and the absolute world-wise, world-weary, traveled wisdom that comes through in this issue is just staggering. It really bowled me back. I think this is probably one of the most mature, comics is literature. Comics aren't just for kids anymore type of books I've ever read. I don't think most of the comics that people have tagged like that really live up to that. The Re-Up does. This is adult comics for adults who care about thoughtful, well-written, just good storytelling that has wisdom and emotional moments and everything. So I can't speak highly enough about the Re-Up, and particularly issue 6. But please do yourself a favor, go get all 6 issues that are out so far. I think there's about 10 more to come, if I'm correct from what Chad has said. And not only that, but Chad's an amazing human being. We talk a lot. I love him. He's a great guy. And he's doing something really special here with Juliette. So please support them. You will not regret it. That's it for my books of 2024. Let's head into 2025. Quarter of a century in to the new golden age of comics. I look forward to it. I have my book bound. I spent all summer doing the inking, talking about the year, for my new book, Bound. I don't know why I drew so damn big, but I finished all the inking for the new book, and over the Christmas break, I've been wrapping up the majority of the digital component of the book, and there's just some more prep work done now, basically, to where I'm going to start trying to pull off some of the tricks that I found in some of these books, and hopefully Bound will out and on some lists in 2025. So stick around. Living the Line is just getting started. We have some awesome stuff coming for you. We'll see you in 2025.